Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Inside Abuja on Trust TV. I'm Darshan Hussaina Usman. Today on the program, we'll be taking a look at high-rise buildings within the Federal Capital Territory. These are intricate structures that help beautify a city. Come with us. High-rise buildings, also called high-rise, are multi-story buildings tall enough to require the use of a system of mechanical vertical transportation such as elevators. The first high-rise buildings were constructed in the United States in the 1880s. They sprung up in urban areas where increased demand for land and surging population created a demand for buildings that rose vertically rather than spread horizontally, thereby occupying less land area. Nigeria is one of the most populated nations, hence the demand for land to cater for the housing needs of the population, especially in urban cities, is catalytic for high-rise. Two of the cities that account for over 90% of high-rise in Nigeria are Lagos and Abuja. These have recently experienced rapid growth and accommodated more high-rise in the country. High-rise buildings are made possible by the use of steel structural frames and glass exterior sheathing. By the mid-20th century, such buildings had become a standard feature of the architectural landscape in most countries of the world.
So normally high-rise building, we have this different kind. Now there's a definition for high-rise. We have mid-rise, but we are talking about high-rise now. When you're talking about high-rise, you have minimum of 12 floors. That's the minimum. Normally, we call high-rise between 30 meters to 150 meters high. Any building between 30 to 150 meters high, that's what we call high-rise. But minimum should be 12 floors. So anything from 12 floors and above, that's high-rise building. Now, there are people mistaking high-rise with so high-rise between 12 floors to 40 floors. So skyscraper is different from high-rise. Skyscraper start from 40 floors and above. So when we talk about high-rise, it's just between 12 to 40 floors. So that's the simple definition of high-rise. I can term it as high-rise. Okay. So it must be minimum of 12 floors, but not beyond 40 floors.
Since the first emergence of high-rise buildings, there have been a significant transformation in their design and construction from the first to the third generation. Although originally designed for commercial purposes, many high-rises are now planned for multiple uses such as office, residential, and retail, with hotel spaces being the most common. Historically, the main purpose of high-rise buildings was never to solve accommodation problems, but to showcase dominance and to announce the prominence of an emergent city on the global stage. But over time, the ideology has changed and ultimately led people to realize that multiple-story buildings could solve accommodation problems on a larger scale. Structures such as city clock towers, churches' steeples, and state buildings are a symbolic function in the Federal Capital Territory. They were erected as a revelation of power and identity of unique civilization and social group. The World Trade Center Towers, ABUJA, is constructed for both residential and office space, aimed to define the capital's skyline. The master plan makes provision for a number of high-rise buildings to be built in the Central Area District of the FCT. Upon completion, it is supposed to be one of the largest mixed-use developments in West Africa. Tower 1, at 110 meters, serves as the tallest residential building in Nigeria, offering 120 luxury apartments spread over 24 floors. The second tower, at 120 meters high, is the tallest commercial building in Abuja, offering 33,000 square meters of total office space, while the remaining towers are at different stages of completion. Construction of the World Trade Center ended in 2009, and it is located very close to the already commissioned metro station, which links directly to the international airport.
The major types are just either residential or commercial. You know, the commercial, you mean hotels, you mean offices. But majorly, when it's high-rise, so it's two types, just residential and commercial. Abuja initially, you know, every city they actually have their plans, their designs. There are some countries in Europe, you will not see any high-rise there. Just see the rest. They did that intentionally. It's part of their own plan. Now, in Abuja, initially, you can't go beyond 10 floors, from what I gathered. That's why the Churchgate building was the tallest building in Abuja before now. And I don't think it was more than 10 floors. So Abuja wasn't planned, the initial planning. But you know, as things are going, there's always review. So I think it has been reviewed. Now, that's why I can see the World Trade Center. That is coming up. I can't now see the ISD allow for Abuja yet. I'm not sure if it has been allowed to go beyond 40 or 25, but it has been reviewed. So that's why the World Trade Center is coming up now, and which is taller than the Churchgate building. But initially, Abuja, you can't go beyond 10 floors in actually Abuja. But developments are coming up now that will give us the high-rise building we're talking about. For example, now the high-rise building that comes to Abuja now is only the World Trade Center. That's what Kantama high-rise. Then there's the other ones should be the commercial ones, which are the ministries. Some of these are the parastatal buildings that are going up now. So those are the only high-rise buildings. For residential, it's only the World Trade Center that can qualify as high-rise now.
Another high-rise building adjacent to the World Trade Center in the FCT is Churchgate Plaza. It is situated at 473 Constitution Avenue, Abuja. It is the first office tower with a full glass facade ever constructed in Abuja. Currently, the plaza is fully let to a multinational company in oil, banking, and service sectors. The exploding population, largely urban, creates an increasing demand for tall buildings. This makes high-rise buildings valid by reducing the strain on urban infrastructure like roads, water, sewage, as the connectivity needs to be provided to only one location as compared to low-rises where every dwelling unit needs a public infrastructure connectivity.
Yeah, high-rise building are important for a lot of reasons. Now, it determines the land use. A lot of things determines what gives rise to high-rise now. The land use type, the demand on a particular area. For example, now Lagos. If you look at Lagos, Ikoyi Lake that's the best part of Lagos, the VIA area. Now the demand is there. Now, commercial as an individual must be super rich to buy a land there. But now, because the demand is high, now a lot of people want to stay in that area due to a lot of reasons: the facilities, the ambience, a lot of issues. So they prefer to. So high-rise building in Lagos the demand is high due to that. A lot of people want that kind of ambience that they want. They want kind of environment. So it makes sense to instead of just a family to actually own a property, you can have like 20, 50 buildings in a single building. So that's why I see Lagos demand for high-rise is higher than Abuja. For Abuja is getting to that level too. Maitama, Sokoro, probably Guzape, those are one of the best areas. Katampi Extension, those are the best areas. But if you look at it, it's almost fully developed. To get to your time in Abuja, more people want to stay in that area. So you can see most of the low-rise building giving way to actually high-rise. Most of the high-rise in Lagos, the actually buildings existing there before, they were removed to turn to high-rise. So demand is one of the major issues. One, the building plan of the town, regulations of the town Yes, depends on that, but the demand too. Yeah, so the demands too, so it's two things, the regulations and the demand. That's what gives us mostly high rise most of the time. The importance is one, the ambience. It creates a very good ambience for a city. You know, a city is actually defined by the kind of life. If you go to Dubai, most of this go to Dubai, Singapore, you see the way the skyline is littered. It creates a beautiful scene. So it's one of the importance of it is that, you know, it makes the city more advanced, more beautiful, and provide better facilities into the that's one of the most as in the major issue, apart from the advantage of creating more a unit of housing. You know, give me an example again. In ABUJA before, they used to approve this in bungalows. It's no longer approved again. And why bungalows no longer approved is this now. The demand of the land is getting more, it's getting higher and higher. Now, instead of just a family to stay, you can have 2 or 3 families. So that's why you see now, even in Cuba, I don't see that before they are born now, no longer. So the changes, as the city is developing, as demand is getting higher, you need to because it's even cheaper for the government, for example, to provide facilities in a smaller area and accommodate more people than to spread to a bigger area and accommodate less people. So it's more expensive for government, for example, now to keep pushing just for fewer people. When in an area you can accommodate maybe 10,000 people with the same amount, and you go and build infrastructure for 1,000 people with the same amount. You know, it's not economical. So even in government area, it's cheaper to have higher rise buildings because you can provide facilities for a greater number of people with cheaper amounts.
The approach towards the construction of a high-rise building is challenging and therefore requires consideration of critical factors. But on the flip side, high-rise structures pose particular design challenges for structural and geotechnical engineers, particularly if situated in a seismically active region or if the underlying soils have geotechnical risk factors such as high compressibility or bay mud. ABUJA's circumstance presents a diverse scenario. In less than 15 years, after government sold all the high-rise residential buildings, these buildings, which was built for civil servants and handed off to their managements, signs of cracks indicating structural failures due to neglect have surfaced. Unkempt building walls as a result of plumbing leakages from the top to bottom of the buildings and haphazard electrical connections, all of which constitute eyesore to the environment, are now conspicuously visible in many of the buildings.
It's very expensive to build. The maintenance is higher because this is high rise. Definitely, no matter any property you have, you must maintain it. Now, when you have in high rise, it's a different ball game. You actually need to have some special lift equipment to go. For example, if you have issues with yourself externally, when you have externally, for example, normal scaffolding you can't actually go. So you need special equipment to actually service and maintain them. You have problem with your signal at times, depending on how it is. You have problem with even your connection, internet connection, because there are some internet connections that are not meant to be at that height. So you need to provide a lot of extra facilities. Maybe you have your own special station for internet and call. So it's more expensive to maintain one. Then to actually get some services there is tough. So high-rise building costs a lot to maintain, and it's more difficult.
The Bank of Industry is Nigeria's oldest, largest, and most successful development financing institution. It was constructed in 2001 out of the Nigerian Industrial Development Bank Limited, which was incorporated in 1964. The establishment boasts of 3 modern high-rise buildings with unique architectural style, estimated at 54.43 meters high, with each building containing offices, parking garages, and a restaurant housed in over 15 floors. Another building that is just as tall as Bank of Industry is Unity Bank. situated just beside the Bank of Industry. According to its website, it is Nigeria's 7th largest bank by business locations. Human civilization is not known to be content with certain progress at any point in time, as the passage of time comes with the desire for more. Innovation in this regard has led to newer ways of building homes as well as manufacturing of better materials that are robust and less damaging to the environment. Every city has to fit its entire population within their limited spaces. So, as space remains limited, the only reasonable solution nations have at their disposal is to go vertical, which is what every developed and developing nation has been striving for and creating. For inhabitants of high-rise buildings or apartment blocks, one of the most important safety measures is to know the locations of all the available exit stairs from the floor. High-rise buildings have garnered significant attention in the fire safety world over the years due to the effort required to evacuate people from multiple floors during fire incidences. This makes the safety of high-rise building an issue of concern for locals, regional and federal governments, as well as communities around the vicinity. In 2020, a fire broke out at the top of a section of the World Trade Center complex and spread to other parts. Thankfully, it was quickly tamed.
The safety standard now is going up. Most people in ABUJA now. Like, for example, when I first go to ABUJA, you always see people using helmet on site. You always see people using reflective jacket on site. Now, there's more awareness about safety now because people are now getting so. But in high-rise, high-rise building is always a standard building that not just every contractor can build. They're specialized. In civil engineering, everybody specializes in a different way. Nigeria might have that issue of specialization, but in some other climes, it's either just to specialize in low-rise building, especially in high-rise building. One contractor will not do all. You understand? The same thing, even in design to architecture, there's some special interior architecture, there's some exterior architecture, but just that here we do them mostly together now. So when you talk about high-rise and the safety standard, there are safety professionals that before the work even starts, they've planned ahead. Now, the safety professionals is this now. They look at the height, as you're going to which height, what kind of safety equipment do you need? What kind of safety stuff, what are the safety the facilities in place? Like, for example, people climb there without having belts, harness, and we call it harness. So when you're in a high-rise, you must always wear your harness. The harness is like a belt. So in case you are falling off, so you tie it to this you are working with, any scaffold you're actually working with. Your helmet has to be in place. Then there are some safety measures. Instead, okay, you don't move near to this place. And during the construction, there are always safety equipment like tapes. You're having like all those things to actually. You're having this. We actually call it railings, temporary ones. Railings. You actually have railings so that people don't fall over easily. So the safety measures in high-rise is actually higher than the low-rise, because the safety is just that they make sure that the safety officer that check everybody, they provide more safety facility so that people don't fall down often. Also that the fatality, even if it happens, is greatly reduced. Then the safety after. Now, the safety after is the kind of the design you do. For example, children can go to balcony and fall off easily. Now, when you are designing for high-rise, they put all those safety measures in place. They don't have handrails that are actually short. It's like they are sealing everything up, so you don't have access. You don't have any accidental fall easily. So the safety is both in construction and in design. Then the kind of glass, structural glass, they call this. There's some structural glasses you use that if you fall against the glass, it doesn't break easily. We actually call it tempered glass. So the kind of windows they use to is more safety conscious than what you're doing in normal houses. So safety is both in construction, in design, and in construction.
The foundations of high-rise buildings must sometimes support very heavy gravity loads, and they usually consist of concrete piers, piles, or caissons that are sunk into the ground. Beds of solid rock are the most desirable base. The most important factor in the design of high-rise buildings, however, is the buildings need to withstand the lateral forces imposed by winds and potential natural disasters.
Now, in designing a high-rise building, you need deep foundations. You know, we have normal foundations, shallow foundations. So now, in the deep foundation, definitely you can't escape piling. And the piling is not just normal piling. So called definition of piling. There's something they actually call group piling. You know the piling. Let me just give you an example. What piling does is this: you take your foundation to the hardest strata in the soil. Let me just divert again for in structures. Example now, when you go 1 meter at times, from 600 to 1 meter, you can get very hard soil. After 1 meter, you might be getting something weaker again. Then after that one again, you get, every soil have the different strata actually. So, but you get to a point, you get the strongest strata, mostly rocks. That's why you see them doing the bridges in ABUJA. You see the piling that they do. They have to get to the strongest. So it's as if you are putting your structure on top of a rock. That's why you see, no matter the vehicle, no matter the weight, you've never seen a bridge in ABUJA sink. So because they go to the highest cost, with the way the art cross is designed, the lowest point you must meet a rock. Even if you're in the ocean, if you go deeper and deeper, you will still get to the point where you actually meet a rock. It's just in the mountain. So you must get there. So it's the same similar system happening in high-rise too. So your foundation type is majorly piling, majorly. Except you are quite lucky, maybe your rock. Maybe we used to call it formation. Maybe you are lucky that your rock formation is so close. It's so close to the top, then you can do maybe a raft or something. But majorly, it's piling. But in some instances, which is very few, you can still do rafts for that. So that's foundation. Then it entails a lot. So it's the reinforcement. Definitely, because something that will carry 3 floors and something that's going to take like 15 floors. It's not the same type of reinforcement. There's some skyscraper that they actually use, instead of concrete, majorly steel. There's some structural steels that are designed for that. So the usage of steel in high-rise buildings is higher. And you might not use normal concrete stuff. We call something composites. There's a composite. The composite structure means that now you are mixing concrete with steel, and the steel will mean it's not normal reinforcement that we use. I mean structural steel, like the beam section, the eye section. So in essence, the materials for high-rise, they are more elaborate. They are more stronger. Now, when we talk about high-rise too, your finish is actually different from a low-rise. Now, in a low-rise, you can just put your ladder or your scaffold and paint. In high-rise, you can just repaint easily. So it means that most of the time, they clad them. Because in cladding, you don't need to replace them as often as you want. So part of the materials that you clad, and most of the materials they use again has to be very, very durable, not just what you can go in and change anytime. So instead of them to use tiles at times, they actually use rug on the floor. Because, so the innovations are actually different. Kind of cables you use. It's the same material with low-rise, but the specifications are different. And they usually employ a lot of material that we don't use low-rise, material that you don't need to replace easily. The kind of pipe work, the piping, because the pressure, you need to pump water under high pressure. The pressure needs to be very high. So you can't use ordinary the PVC pipe we use here. You need to order special pipes that can withstand the constant pressure. For example, you are pumping to 20th floor. Kind of pump we are going to use to pump, because water normally in normal building flows under gravity. This one is flowing against the gravity. So you are pumping high and the pressure has to be high. So it means you can't use the normal pipe you're using for low rise, or else you have pipe just bursting every time.
The rate at which the number of people is growing in some cities more than others is unprecedented. However, the rarest of commodities necessary to house this growing population, which is land, remains the same. But what does the law say about high-rise buildings in relation to collapses and natural disasters in Nigeria?
The law, now, actually in Nigeria here, we have all the laws. I think our problem is the implementation, actually, both in Lagos and Abuja here. I think Abuja is even more, I think they're more strict in actually maintaining this safety now, because there are actually rules. Now, the rules start from the design. You must submit your soil test report first. They will check it with what you designed. This is soil test report, this is what you designed. This soil test shows this, you can't use this design for that. That's one. So the actually standard. The standard are this one. The design standard are there. Now, they'll tell you per each area, these are how many plots you can go. For example, now, every plot in Abuja have the kind of the density. Some plots are for high density, some are for low density. So that's the first thing. So the actually laws that actually guide that, the kind of building you can put. Now the kind of design too have to be done. Then during the construction, the kind of professionals you need to engage. Like in Abuja, for example, now, if you are doing any building, there must be a structural engineer. They must submit a certificate and they go and swear in court that if anything happens, is held accountable. Before it wasn't done, you see people just they develop without anybody. You can't hold anybody accountable if any building falls down. But now they actually laws. They actually guide us. So it means that you must have your professionals ready on site, mechanical, electrical, as in certified and experienced enough. And the regulatory agency, which is the environmental control, they will check it to make sure that they are qualified to supervise that kind of work. And you carry them along as you are doing the work. They come and check to see. So there are a lot of rules that actually guides that. But majorly the design rules, the land use rules, then the implementation rules, which is the construction rules, the kind of professionals you must engage before you go ahead. And those professionals must be responsible for anything that happens. The unfortunate incident that actually happened in Lagos, if you follow it, professionals were initially engaged, after some time, they withdrew when the client wasn't actually doing what he should do. But unfortunately, nobody was able to come in between to find out these people have withdrew and to ensure these are the right people there. Unfortunately, we have issues that actually happen because when people go to school and get certification for something, I don't think it's for a joke.